Well, your eyes are not deceiving you. It's me, Nick Bruno. I'm back, and I'm certainly happy to be here. It's all, so many years that we've spent, my family and Linda and I, and it was always pleasant. It was difficult, but at times, but it was always very rewarding, and most of that was as a result of you and the students, of course, on this campus. I received a call about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month, asking me to come to Baton Rouge. They had a discussion they had to make with me, which I did. At that time, I was asked would I return to Monroe. Quite frankly, I had to do some thinking and talk to Linda about it. But they were concerned that there was a problem here, particularly a financial issue, and I said, well, that's not something unusual for ULM. It has been battling financial issues for a number of years. Unfortunately, when I arrived, the severity of the financial situation at this university is as bad as any I've ever seen. So for the last 10 days or so, I've been working very closely with Dr. Graves and the VPs to talk about where we are here and, of course, where we're going. I'm confident we can resolve the challenges we have. It is not going to be easy. And those of you who were here when I was here last, as you know, we had these discussions, and the message was it was tough. We're going to work through it. We're going to make this happen. We'll make it happen again, but it will be much more severe in addressing these challenges. My charge is to balance the budget for this year, which appears to be between $4 and $6 million in the red. And then to begin the budget process for fiscal year 26, which could be as much as $12 to $13 million in the red. Now, this is quite a shock, and I'm sure it may be a shock to you. Some I've spoken with indicated they had no idea. I have worked very closely with Dr. Bill Graves, the Vice President of Business and Finance, and I have to say that he's done a yeoman's job and was very outspoken as it related to the management of the finances and what needed to be done and where we are. This could have been avoided, but it would have required much more time and much more diligence as it related to managing our funds. I'll tell you, as I've told other groups, I have met with all of our legislators, so one of the first challenges is to seek their assistance. And of course, we've always been there to ask for $3, $5, $6 million. But now the ask is much bigger. Whether that'll come or not, I can't say. Most, if not all of you, are somewhat familiar with the plight of UNO. The University of New Orleans has been a campus that has been threatened financially for many years. But it has managed to address itself, except for now, I think they're looking at a $10 million deficit this fiscal year. And I'm not quite sure they'll come out of this year with a balanced budget. But that's not our concern. The concern is this institution here that we are all, you're still putting time and effort into to make it a place that students will want to come, want to stay, get their degrees. My job is much more short-term and to hand off to the new president a balanced budget, albeit with some major reductions throughout the campus, in order to address the shortages. I think we will, hopefully we'll get some money additionally from the state, but we have to now get money that recurs every year. These patches of funds that have been given to us have lasted a year, and we've had to go in and reassess and readdress, and I know many of you who may not get a day-to-day report or hear all of the conversations or are present for meetings at the legislature or other areas of our constituencies. These are the issues, is that we have to get a recurring amount of money. We always have to have students. Everyone has to be a recruiter. I've always said that when I was here as vice president, when I came back as president, is that everyone has to be a recruiter. And we have to give every student who can come here and achieve their goal of a college education that opportunity. So in turn, you know, we seek individuals who provide us scholarships, endowments, additional support funds for our programs. So I'm gonna go through this presentation with you. There are 2 mics up here. If you have a question, I'd invite you to come up and ask. We'll have about 15 or so minutes of question and answers when I finish. And particularly, some of this may be confusing, but I hope to make it as clear as possible. So don't hesitate to ask for clarification as we move up. So we start with, you know, enrollment. Again, as I mentioned, everyone must be a recruiter. And recruitment does not just mean going into a school and asking students to consider ULM and talking to parents. Of course, that's a big factor. Now, the other part is in the classroom, in the offices, out on campus, campus police. Everyone has to make sure when that student arrives that we assure them they've made the right decision. And the right decision comes with, you know, as I've always heard, treating them as if they were your children or younger brother or sister, that what would you want someone at a university, how would you want them to treat them? And that would be fair and equitable, but challenge them, you know. So with that in mind, we'll move through this, and again, at the end, we'll try to get your questions cleared up. Okay, 5-year enrollment trend. This is a busy chart, but the gray is graduate students, and we use 2020, fall of 2020 as a benchmark. And the reason why is because I was familiar with those numbers. You know, the fiscal year, I retired July 1 of 2020. So I wanted to check how we're comparing to that year. Not that we were, you know, the bayou was overflowing with money, but there was some stability. So as you can see, graduate students were 969 at that time compared to 952 today. Professional students, 339 versus 349. And the rise point are the online programs that are contracted, as I understand it. They've gone up about 30 students. So dual enrollment has really taken a jump, but from a financial perspective, we don't reap as much financial benefit from dual enrollment. We do collect some money from the dual enrollment students, but they do not pay the student fees, the support fees that a full-time student will pay, or even a part-time student. So while those numbers go up, they don't mean a lot in providing funding for the operations of the university. And then the undergraduates. The undergraduate numbers have gone down by about, 538 students. That's about $3 or $4 million in tuition that's down from that particular thing. There's a lot to be said for that number. You know, we all certainly have heard of something called COVID, which impacted that. There's a book that was published before I left that we passed out that talked about the enrollment cliff. I'm not sure many schools were prepared for the enrollment cliff, but it appears that there is starting to be some effect on that. I think that was going to begin in 26 or 27, and we may be seeing that on the front end here in Louisiana. So overall, numbers may be similar, but in the areas that translate to dollars to pay salaries, to pay light bills, to pay all of these things, that's one of our biggest concerns. So everyone's a recruiter. Percent of student by type. As you can see, again, the gray is graduate. If you can't see that, it's held pretty constant. The professional has been pretty steady, as has Rise Point, and this is a percentage of the total. The professional, dual enrollment is up a little bit. And then, once again, the undergraduate, we're down about 6%. So that's a big portion of the money we're looking for right now. First-time students, that took a jump in the fall of '24. So, you're dealing with 41 versus 32. That's part-time. Part-time is 41 versus 32 and 1237 versus 1123 and 20. So that's a positive sign, okay? But what does that mean? Well, it means the job is only begun. Now, we've got to retain those students. We cannot be bringing them in and turning them out. We've got to retain them. We know there's some weaknesses we have. We know there's some things we're going to have to identify and move forward with to build that retention for those first-time students. Because it's like a business. Repeat business is much less expensive to facilitate. And of course, when you keep a student, that tuition begins to accumulate over the years. And we saw that during my tenure, where enrollment went up, retention went up, and graduation rates went up. And these are identified over in iPads or wherever you want to look, but that's what helped us keep a stability in our finances. Professional students, this is one of concern. Form D is down almost 100 students. That's a big number. It's a big number for us financially. A lot of factors, and we're gathering information on that, and we'll be gathering more information over the next week or two. Form D is an expensive program. It's a program that's having some changes in students' desire to be pharmacists, possibly. Could be because we have intense increased competition, that could be. And it could be that competition has a less expensive tuition. I don't know what we can do about any of them, but we're going to have to focus on that area very intensely, because not only is it a problem for us because of tuition and fees, it's a problem because the state looks at this university to produce its pharmacists. As you know, we're the only public pharmacy in the state. So we have a lot of responsibility and a big burden for that program, and we've got to come up with some creative solution as to how we're going to cure that. Occupational therapy, that master's program has been growing. That's a positive sign. And of course, the physical therapy, doctorate of physical therapy has grown, and it's a full class the 2 years it's had it. That's very good news. Occupancy, I'm going to put this out there because when a student lives on campus, we collect rent, we collect meal plans. They are on the campus, giving the campus life. They're connecting with each other, they're participating, they're building the connection with the university that will carry on as they progress in their education and hopefully as they move on and become alums. Okay, 2020 again, 1710. That was all in university. I'm going to use the term owned housing, which are all of those here along Northeast Drive, across the bayou, adjacent to the bayou, and of course the Honors Hall, Vines Hall. Since 2021, there was a new facility built on the other side of Bonaire, which is called Warhawk Village. That facility is one that the university's only involvement is that we leased them land, they built it, they operate it. At some point, as they grow, we will receive some money from them. Dr. Graves has told me we've not received any money from them as yet, so we'll be diving into that agreement to find out what's going on to see if we are due any money or when we may be getting it. While I'm on this slide, I want to mention a little bit, and please, I'm not trying to patronize anyone. I'm trying to educate you on some of the things that we have to delve into. The residence halls and some of the new buildings on campus, including the hub, were financed through an affiliated nonprofit called the Facilities Corporation. Some of you may have heard of it. It's ULM Facility Corporation. Under a model that began actually at Southeastern when I was there, an affiliated nonprofit would borrow money. They could borrow money through bond issuance. They would get a similar rate to public agencies, and in turn they could build facilities for the benefit of their affiliate, in our case, us. The rents and revenues from fees that are, committed to those bonds are collected by the university, and they're forwarded to a bond trustee each semester. The trustee pays the bills. The rest of the funds are transferred to the Facility Corporation. And the Facility Corporation holds money that the university can draw upon at any time for uses that the university deems appropriate. That has been a very successful model across Louisiana. And it continues to be successful. Now, I'll stop at this point to let you just think about that for a second, and I'll progress because I'll come back to this. Remember, the Facility Corporation is there purely for the benefit of the university, and its buildings, the revenues go to them, bills paid, come back to the university as we need them, okay? All right. Budget update. Okay, a lot of numbers here, but I'll ask you to focus on the first one on the left and the last one on the right. Again, using fiscal year 20. That was 19 and 20. General fund, which are state dollars, was approximately $30 million. The self-fund is a fund that was established many years ago that was primarily to support faculty raises. Now, it continues to be funded, as you can see across the board, but when that was originally funded, raises were granted. So they go back a long way, and they're embedded in salaries that are existing today. And in turn, that number has gone up about $300,000 over 6 years. Not a big number, but there has been an increase, slight increase. Okay, so, and the last one, Louisiana Plan Fund, Response Plan Fund, is some remnants of COVID monies that were given to the state. And last year, the legislature just said, okay, we're giving $4 million to the university to help with pharmacy and other. So that brought a total $31,300,000 in 20, $38,200,000 this year. Okay, and remember that $4 million is a one-year money. That goes away June 30th. So we don't have that we can lean on in the next fiscal year. Okay, so self-generated funds, that's tuition, fees. In 20, it was $64,641,000. This year, it appears it's going to be approximately $61,500,000. So if you look at that, that's about $3 million less than we had back in 20. And remember that as you look at the bottom numbers, CARES Fund was COVID monies transferred to the university during COVID. They're gone. Okay, those are gone, spent somewhere. So total revenues, $95,900,000, almost $96 million, compared to almost $100 million this year. Now, if you take away the $4 million going into next year, we're even. We're even with what we had in 20. So immediately we're starting to see we're getting less money from tuition. We're going to get rid of that CARES money or response plan. So this year, or going into fiscal 26, the total dollars this university can start budgeting on, at least one of its numbers, is $96 million. Now, there'll be some other adjustments there as we go along, so you'll see it. If we don't increase our enrollment, and I'm talking full-time, we're not talking numbers. Numbers don't do anything for us but give us bragging rights. If we don't increase that and we're not successful with the legislature getting additional state funds, then we have a real big problem, okay? Which I'm projecting is going to be a real big problem. Sharing pharmacy with you. I'm sure a lot of you over the years have heard pharmacy, 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 pharmacy. Well, pharmacy is a part of the university. It's an important part of the university. It's been a function that's been here for 50, 60 years, and the responsibility for producing our public pharmacists vests with this university and that college. And as you can see, those numbers are not very exciting. Almost 350 enrollment down. That's another $4 or $5 million in reductions that we've got to come up with. So we have been, again, the legislature has been very generous over the years, but those dollars have been this year, not next year, this year, not next year. So the goal is to get some recurring dollars to keep this institution moving. Okay, everyone wants to know about athletics. Well, you're going to know all there is to know about athletics. Athletics in year 20, we spent $12 million. That's what their earnings were, excuse me. 6.8 million came from the university and 5.8 from the athletic program's operations, okay? As we move over to the budgeted for this year, the university support has risen to over $10 million. Its revenues are $9 million. So a little over 50% of the revenues of athletics come from the university. It's not all the operating fund. It is partially from auxiliaries, which are the business, the revenue generating components of the university. So its budget has gone up $7 million, which is close to evenly split between the university support and its own revenues. Its expenditures have gone up about $5 million. All of these red numbers are deficits. What is a deficit? It's when your expenses exceed your revenues. Now, all of these years, and many of this, and many programs. We haven't detailed every program on campus, but there are programs on campus in which their expenses are higher than revenues generated through tuition, et cetera. This number is big. At the end of this year, they'll probably have had $16 million in expenses over the revenues that are there. Now, I've already spoken to the athletic director several times about how we're going to address this. This is not an easy task. There are obligations that the university has with the conference participated, the coaches' salaries that have been engaged and endorsed through February. Some were approved as late as February, that are pretty tight. So this is something I can assure you we're going to have to address. This is an issue that is statewide. There are statements that the University of Louisiana at Lafayette has 50 million in cumulative deficits. Is that true? I don't know. That seems to be the general word. Other universities are accumulating deficits. The difference is these were fine All of these were invisible, okay? You know, the business people, the presidents, the system, they're aware of these deficits every year. But you know, it didn't matter at that time. Why? Because we had cash to pay them. There was cash available to pay them. So when the board would look at these numbers, they'd say, oh, the 3.4 million deficit. But at the time, we had $18 million in cash. At the end of fiscal 20, there was $14 million in the bank in reserves. Today, there's 800,000. Now, how many math teachers we have in here? Where's our math faculty? We don't have any math faculty in here. Okay? Apparently, they already saw these numbers. But the reality of it is, you know, it's just like your personal finances. If your checking account goes in the red, or you bounce a check, and you got a savings account, you go and get money and cover it. If you do that enough, one day you're going to go to that savings account, and guess what? There's nothing there. And that's what we have right now. So, you know, we have to try to hold this as small as possible until we can get a permanent solution. But trust me, we know where it is, the board knows where it is. We have to work to come up with a solution, and we will. Now, unfortunately for the new president, whoever that is, they're going to inherit that. You know, I'm going to do my best to get it to a point that it can be managed. But that new president, whoever comes in, is going to be faced with a monumental challenge. Okay? And it's not just with them, it's campus-wide. Capital outlay, I'm just going into this. We've always done it. Health sciences, campus renovation. I'm personally very excited about that. That was something that began when I was here, and I'm glad to see there is some money appropriated for it, $16 million. And hopefully this year we'll get an additional $14 million to finish that building. And I want to be very clear, because some people think, well, let's just take that money and use it over here. We can't do it. Just like with universities, there are monies that are collected that are earmarked for certain applications, and we can't cross them. There is some flexibility in some, but not these. So the building, construction, repairs, et cetera, go on. Okay. And this is for deferred maintenance, which are maintenance issues that have accumulated over the years and have not been addressed. The system has limited us to $5 million, and this is how it lays out. Now, several legislators have suggested we add to that, and there is another list, an additional list of projects that we can add to that if it appears that those monies are available. Well, I think that's all. I'll just go over one more thing, you know, because I want to try to tie it all together now. As we went through here, I identified 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, different places. If we look at numbers, again, this is very high level right now, not specific. If we're looking at reducing the amount of money at athletics to 5 or 6 million as opposed to 10, that's $5 million we've got to come up with. We got 3 million down in 3 to 4 million down in undergraduate tuition. We got pharmacy down $3 to $4 million. Now, I want to come back to that nonprofit facility corporation. The facility corporation, as I mentioned earlier, we used to draw money from them. As the university needed money, it was drawn from facility corporation. A few years ago, 3 years ago, there was a lot of excitement over the donation of the Lumen building. Okay, some of you may remember. It was donated to the facility corporation on behalf of the university. Lumen, the details of the agreement, which I have not personally read, but that have been told to me, is the financial cost of Lumen each year to the facility corporation is about $3 million for maintenance, utilities, insurance, and about $1 million a year is received from Lumen for offices that continue to remain there. So the facility corporation is short $2 million a year. But the reality is the university is short $2 million a year from that donation. So we're exploring opportunities for there. The facility corporation's board has met. I think they've got a strategy. The key element is reducing those costs so the university can regain access to those monies. I have advised the staff there be no more usage of that building effective today or last week. There'll be no more events over there. I'm going to work with Michael Davis and Dr. Graves to see what we can do to scale the cost down. It's just, it's a beautiful building, beautiful grounds, it's lovely. But it's not something that we can do anything with, So, again, that's where Lumen, there's been talk on the street, oh, Lumen is hurting the university. It's not directly hurting the university, but indirectly. That source of revenue is just not coming to us. We don't have access to it. So we've got to get back to where we can get into that and let our operations flourish. The other thing is this. Those auxiliary monies that I talked about, student fees that go in and revenues of different kinds that have a great deal of flexibility. And so flexible that they've been used to prop up this budget for 3 or 4 years. They're not there anymore. So this operating fund is going to have to stand on its own, and that's going to be difficult. So when you start going through in your mind and you start getting numbers, my rough estimate of shortage for next year is $10 to $12 million. Hopefully it'll come less. The legislature comes into some money recurring. It'll be good. But, and this is the big but, the vice presidents have already been asked and to have a layoff plan effective the week after, not effective layoffs, but a plan effective the week after spring break. There was consideration of furloughs that would begin the 1st of May. I've withdrawn that because we have, Dr. Graves has a solution to plug the budget for this year, thanks to the facility corporation. But there is no way that we can reduce our budget $10 to $12 million without significant layoffs. That's the worst thing I can say. I fought that for 10 years and 3 years as a vice president. And unfortunately, as an acting vice president, I have to come back and share with you that this is going to happen. Now, I'm not sure, and I have to be honest, I am not sure we can make even close to those cuts without a structural reorganization. And that structural reorganization may come in the form of financial exigency. And that's an ugly word, but that may be our final option. And if it is, we'll know by the 1st of June, and the board has been in close contact. It's ultimately their decision. But if we go into this budget that short, there's no other way to do it. So I'm sorry for you to enter your weekend with this news. It has something that's, it's worn on me since I've arrived 2 weeks ago. Because, again, we've had challenges. Many of you shared those challenges over the years with me, and but this one's Herculean. It's going to be a Herculean task to address. So all I can ask is your patience, your prayers for all of us, and for the staff that comes on after the new budget year, the new president coming in. They'll have some really hard times unless we can get a handle on this. There are some funds that the legislature approved that the university did not receive as intended, and the legislative delegation has committed that they will begin to look into that. But that's about $2 million a year. So there are some opportunities out there. I think the Lumen thing, hopefully we'll have a meeting next week in Baton Rouge to begin to look at some options with it. So we have to piece it apart. If this had transpired September, October, we could have had a little heavier recovery, a little more vibrant recovery. But coming up and trying to do some of this in 3 months is almost impossible. To give you an idea, if we had a 10% furlough, we would save about $250,000 a month for a 10% furlough. That means everybody go half a day. On Friday, we'd close the university. But if we included every employee, there would be a $700,000 savings. So that gives you an idea where we're looking and what we're confronted with. The operations of this university, when you look at $100 million, and you think 10% would result in a $10 million saving. But we don't have $100 million, as I showed you. We're more like 95, 93, depending on what this fall class is and what our returning students are. So all is not lost, I'm confident we can make it happen. I always said ULM is first. I still believe that above everything. And, there's nothing we can do. I will be engaging everyone to share with us and give ideas. You'll be asked to share with Faculty Senate, Staff Senate, ideas if we do have to move towards layoffs. I'm sure the deans and directors will be engaged through the vice presidents. And at the end of the day, by June 1st, we're going to know just where we stand. But I have to say this, we've had freezes, we've had purchasing halts over the years, and I know there was some discussions about freezing purchasing, freezing personnel, and they still come across my desk. But with this in mind, it's going to stop. It can't go any further. So again, it's not good news, but it's news you need to know. And I'll be happy to take any questions that any of you may have. And I encourage you. Well, I would like to think I was that effective in transferring it, but probably my last few sentences probably ended it all. But y'all know my email. It's bruno@ulm. If you got something to ask, you'd like to do it privately, you're welcome to do that. This is going to be a transparent process. It's going to be transparent. There's no way else that we can do it. So I thank you for all you've done. For those of you who were here when I was here, thank you so much. For those of you who are new, please know that we've always rallied around each other and made this thing work. So have a nice weekend. The weather's going to be good. Yeah, I agree. But if it's any consolation, like I said, even though I will not be here, presumably into the latter part of the year, I'll be thinking about it, and I'm sure the board will be asking me to assist as I can, and I will be happy to do that. But it'll vest after June 30, presumably with the new president. So take care, be safe going home. Again, thank you for what you do.